Hi, how are you? It is officially draft season, which means that everyone wants to drop their takes on their favorite prospects, who's gonna boom, who's gonna bust. And guess what? They're all probably wrong. But me though, I'm different, okay? So here's my top 15 in this class. This is just straight up prospects, not who's gonna go 1 through 15, but who I think are the 15 best prospects, who will be the 15 best players in 5 years per se. So first I want to start with my honorable mentions. These people didn't make it. They weren't good enough, okay? Sorry. Nate Ahmet, I don't believe in it. He is too much of a boomer bust in my opinion. He lacks the touch and feel that I think you want out of a prospect coming out of college. He's got a lot to work on, a lot to develop, and I'm not saying it's impossible for him to get there. I just personally, I'm good. I'm out. If I'm a team, I'm not taking that risk this early in a draft. If he ends up falling to like somewhere in like the late teens or 20s, I think that's perfect. Taking him in top 10 or like top 15, I think would be a mistake for a lot of teams. I also left out Ade Mara, who probably will go top 10. I think that has less to do with him as a prospect and more to do with the lack of centers in this class. That won't really change. He probably is the best center prospect per se for the NBA level, but I think he may struggle adjusting to the NBA game. I don't know how well he's going to switch onto the perimeter. I don't know how well he's really just going to guard in space and how long he will be able to stay on the court. He is a 7'3" big man who didn't play a lot of minutes in college. There's also injury risk. So I don't have him in the top 15. He probably will go pretty high just due to his stature and this being a weak class for big men, but he's not in my top 15. Starting off at number 15, I'm going to go with Allen Graves. Now for every prospect, I'm going to give a floor, ceiling, and a realistic projection. For his floor, I'm going to go Jared Dudley. For his ceiling, I'm going to say actually Draymond Green. Realistically, I think he falls into more of the Kyle Anderson area. He's a versatile wing with small ball, big potential. He's a very smart player on both sides of the ball. He knows how to move without the ball. He screens and cuts very well. He's a great playmaker for his position and he makes very quick reads. He takes care of the ball as a passer and a ball handler and can work as a passer out of the post or as a connecting player. He has a 7-foot wingspan that helps him rebound very well for his size and it helps him be disruptive on defense and play some passing lanes as well. He creates steals and blocks without having great athleticism, just really using IQ and like I said, that long wingspan. And there is defensive versatility upside with him being able to guard big men, being able to guard on the wing, being able to fight through screens, all that type of stuff. And he shot good from 3 in college on decent volume. He was one of those players that was an advanced analytic darling, but he had very low usage, which also would kind of benefit those advanced stats and brings up the questions of how well he plays against better competition. Came off the bench in college. He's not a great athlete, as I said earlier, and his jump shot visually does not look great. It went in, but mechanically it looks a little off. And how well he actually will be able to guard smaller guards is questionable. It's kind of theoretical at this point, his versatility. His finishing left a lot to be desired, especially being a below the rim guy that's not really dunking the ball very much. He has to be a great 3-point shooter and he has to become a really good defender at the NBA level to be effective. I think he will do both of those things and be someone that just has like a very long and successful career. And if he expands his game even more, I do think the sky is the limit for someone like him, can be really effective at the NBA level. Coming in at 14, I'm going to go with Cameron Carr. For the floor, I'm going to say Ben McLemore. For the ceiling, I'm going to say Trey Murphy III. And realistically, probably about Terrence Ross. He is your prototypical NBA scoring guard, produces highlighted plays above the rim while pairing you with a consistent 3-point shot. He's great at creating separation for himself and shoots well off the dribble as well as a spot-up shooter. He's also done well without the ball as a cutter and as a movement shooter. And he knows how to use his physical talents. And when he's going in transition, it's very hard to stop him. He also uses his wingspan and athleticism to get involved on defense. He can occasionally get some blocks and he plays some passing lanes. And if he gets a little bit stronger and becomes a little bit more focused on that side, he could be a good defender in the NBA. That lack of focus may never get there and he could be attacked on defense. There also could be a world where stronger players are able to just move him around on defense a lot, and that lack of strength could hurt him offensively as he tries to finish and drive through contact and he's just not able to get to the spots that he wants to. Also, his playmaking is just not where you would want it to be for an NBA shooting guard. And that also goes for his decision making as a whole. His shot selection, some of the plays he makes are just not, the reads aren't where you want them to be. Depending on his role in the NBA, I don't think these factors will be as big of a deal as they're making them out to be, because if he's in a very defined role, these things just may not show up as much. At 13, I'm going to go with Karim Lopez. For floor, I'm going to say current day Kyle Anderson, ceiling Franz Wagner, and for a realistic projection, I'm going to say a less athletic Aaron Gordon. He's a 6'9" forward who's a jack of all trades, a master of none. He's also a player that's just generally been hard to scout because he's playing internationally. It's hard to gauge the competition level. And he seems very raw at this age, right? He's honestly not too far from like the Allen Graves and the Axel Lindenborgs in terms of like what he does on the court. He's just a lot more raw. Already he has the physical tools to be a solid NBA wing in terms of his size and weight. He's a good driver and he absorbs contact very well around the rim. And he generally just uses his body well to get to his spots and keep the ball protected. Shows the ability to finish very well above the rim, off the dribble, and as a cutter. And there are flashes of playmaking that could be further developed over time. And he uses his height well as a playmaker to see over the defense. I think he has great potential as an off-ball wing scorer and a good connector in an offense. The jump shot doesn't look bad visually, but he did only shoot 32% in the NBL. He uses linked well to create steals and blocks at times, but it's not consistent enough for me to say he's going to be a good defender. There is potential in pretty much every area of his game, but it's just hard to gauge due to the level of competition he was playing against. And the consistency is just not there in comparison to his peers. He doesn't move his feet well on defense, and a lot of the upside that you see on this side is based just on his physicals as a big wing. The three-point jump shot will have to improve, especially as someone who is not a lockdown defender. And his general IQ as an off-ball player will need to improve. He doesn't space the court well or fill the lanes the way you would want. His solo shot creation just isn't where you would want it to be, especially as someone that's not that quick. So he doesn't really beat people off the dribble, and he's not really blowing by anyone. He is a guy that you kind of have to believe that he is improving once he gets to the NBA for you to believe he's a rotation player, which kind of goes against what I said earlier about Nate Ahmet. But I think the physical tools here and just general IQ level that I've seen from Karim Lopez leads me to believe more that his floor is going to be higher than someone like Nate Ahmet, personally. At number 12, I'm going to go Hans Steinbach. For floor, I'm going to say Daniel Theis. For ceiling, I'm going to say Domantas Sabonis. And realistic, Isaiah Hartenstein light. Now, there's some people already like questioning this whole integrity of this video because I put him higher than Ade Mara, because I've seen a lot of people not be very high on Steinbach, but just hear me out for a second here. First off, he has very good touch around the rim, and he's a elite rebounder, like one of the best in college basketball, right? And he runs the floor very well after getting these rebounds. He's the type of player, he can pass it up, or he can, bring the ball up the court himself. And he shows good speed when he's bringing the ball up the court on these fast breaks after getting the rebound as well. He's very good at setting screens, and he rolls very well out of the pick and roll and just finds open space with ease, and looks very comfortable finishing around the rim, and just has that type of touch around the rim where you feel like he's not rushing it, and he just knows where he needs to be at the right times. In college, he shot about average from three-point line, and there seems to be potential for him to improve as a three-point shooter in his career. And he is an active defender and uses his hands well. The problem is, though, he's just not a shot blocker, right? He's not super athletic, but he uses his body and he knows where he needs to be, and he has a very strong frame. But generally, he projects to be at like an average defender at best, just as someone that's not going to protect the rim. His jump shot visually doesn't look great. It went in about average rate, but visually it doesn't look very good. And he has some misses from three that look pretty bad. And there's just question marks about like what his role in the NBA will be as a guy that doesn't protect the rim, but should be at the center. And it's like maybe down the line, as his skills improve, he can slide down to the floor if he becomes a better perimeter defender. We just don't know. It just seems like a lot of people don't trust him to be a full-time center in the NBA today. He has the skill set of a big man, but he's a little bit undersized and would probably be ran more at the four. But his defense and lack of true three-point spacing makes him more of a center. And he could just be attacked in open space by just quicker wings and more athletic guys. He can just become average on defense. I think the rebounding will provide enough value that the shot blocking won't be a big factor. At 11, I'm going to go with Kingston Flemings here. For 4, I'm going to say Brandon Knight. Ceiling, Tyrese Maxey. And a realistic projection is Ayo Dosunmu. Kingston is an explosive player who gets to the basket at will and constantly applies pressure at the rim. He runs the floor with confidence, playing as a lead guard on a competitive Houston team while being a freshman. He uses quickness to draw the attention of the defense and create for others. He loves to play fast, but stays controlled and doesn't rack up a lot of turnovers while playing at that speed. In college, he was generally an efficient scorer and playmaker, and he really thrives out of those pick and roll situations. On defense, he can also be a playmaker who forces turnovers using his speed to pressure ball handlers and does have some potential as a lockdown defender. His shot mechanics can be inconsistent and look bad at times. He also has a poor shot diet in general, taking a lot of mid-ranges and being a low volume three-point shooter as a small guard. I would also say in general, his finishing will need to improve. His percentages weren't where you want them to be. He also didn't draw a lot of fouls, which for a smaller guard getting to the rim as much as he did, you'd want to see him at the line a lot more. His measurements also didn't look great. His wingspan only came in at 6'3", which people thought it was a lot bigger than that based on how he defended in college, and that could pose issues defending at the NBA level. It was that defensive upside that made him a more intriguing prospect than some of his peers. Like I said, I just think that creation and ability to just attack and draw defense will be useful at the NBA level, at least as like a bench guard. At number 10 here, I'm going to go with one of my personal favorite prospects in this class and who I want my OKC Thunder to pick, Yaxel Lendeborg. For the floor, I'm going to say a more athletic Kyle Anderson. For the ceiling, I'm going to say OG Anunoby. And for realistic projection, I'm going to say PJ Washington. He's just a versatile wing who does a little bit of everything and impacts the game on and off the ball. He improved as a three-point shooter this year and looks to continue to improve as a floor spacer in general. He works well as a play finisher inside and outside the paint, and is a good athlete who runs the break very well. For his position, he's a good playmaker as a wing and function as a good connecting piece on offense, and in general plays with very high IQ and consistently makes the right plays. Now, he's not a great shot creator for himself and doesn't really draw a lot of attention in general. He projects to be a secondary scorer like throughout his career and will need someone to kind of set the plate for him. He is a low ceiling, high floor player who's coming in the NBA at 24 and will immediately be getting minutes on some team and be ready. It's just how good will he be in 3 to 4 years compared to some of his peers is really the question with him being so old. I just think a lot of championship teams would love to have a guy like this coming off the bench for them. And maybe in the future, we look at him and he's starting on a championship roster, and that really wouldn't surprise me. At number 9 here, I'm going to go LeBaron Philon. For the floor, I'm going to say Ramon Sessions, ceiling of Kyle Lowry, and realistic Andrew Nembhard. It's a quick and shifty point guard that creates a lot of space and has a large arsenal moves that he uses to get open. Shows a lot of creativity around the rim. Improved greatly as a scorer this year and was scoring on and off the ball from the perimeter, and has 3-level scoring upside. He did well in college setting up his teammates and making just the easy reads after drawing the attention, and that could happen as a pick and roll ball handler or as he was going downhill, and he did a pretty good job just reading the defense as a whole. He shows some upside on defense using his speed to stay attached to ball handlers and can get scrappy and has good anticipation on passes when playing in the lanes. The consistency of that defense can be questionable with his production dropping on that side in his sophomore season as his role improved on offense. His screen navigation wasn't good in college. That is a big deal when it comes to NBA defense, and he'll just generally need to stay more engaged on that side. And against NBA guards, he could get pushed around a little bit if he doesn't add some more weight to his frame. This could also make it difficult for him attacking the basket and just generally getting to his spots if he's not able to absorb the contact that he was able to in college. And core strength in general would be something that you want to see him improve as he develops as an NBA player. But he is a player that shows some interesting upside for sure. At number 8, we have another one of my personal favorites, and that's going to be Braden Burries. For floor, I'm going to say a young Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And for ceiling, I'm going to say Jalen Williams, J-Dub. And realistically, I'm going to say a Derek White kind of player. And he's another one of these jack of all trades type of player, but this time at the shooting guard with some combo guard potential. He has just great feel for the game, and he's a great scorer on and off the ball. Good shooting form, and projects to be a good shooter at the NBA level. And he was very efficient as well in college. He finishes around the rim well, and especially thrives in transition. He's a decent playmaker, able to set up his teammates during some of these breaks and while going downhill. And he shows a lot of offensive versatility as a plug and play guard. Also rebounds well for a guard and hustles pretty hard. He's a pretty strong player as well, using his strength on defense and forces a lot of turnovers in passing lanes. And he projects to be a two-way guard. There is a feeling that he probably will never be a full-time point guard. He's not as explosive as you would want, but he's also generally undersized for a shooting guard. During his rookie season, he will already be 21. And in general, he doesn't have an area that he truly excels at yet. That could potentially be defense, or it could be three-point shooting, but right now coming in, those things he's really good at, but it's not something that you look at yet as like he will be amazing at this at the NBA level. But I do like these type of players that just seem to kind of fit where the NBA is going in terms of versatility, and I think he will be pretty good again on a team that defines a role for him. Now, this is where I think my list gets really interesting, because at number 7 here, I'm going to go Caleb Wilson. For his floor, I'm going to say Precious Achiuwa. For his ceiling, I'm going to say Pascal Siakam. And for realistic, I'm going to say John Collins. Now, the reason I'm laughing is because when I was writing this, I actually was talking about how people are comparing him to potentially being KG. And very recently, an NBA player who will go unnamed for now said that his floor is KG. And I think that's wild. But this isn't me thinking that he's going to be a bad player, right? I just have some personal questions, right? Now, what we do know, he's an elite athlete who can block shots, finish above the rim, and rebound at a high level. Takes advantages of his mismatches well and has good mechanics on his jump shot. He's also smart without the ball, finding open space on the court and knowing just where he needs to be, and good at drawing contact and getting to the free throw line. He has the tools to be great. He just needs to refine some areas of his game. His outside shot needs work, but it does feel realistic for him to become a decent three-point shooter at least. And his touch around the rim in general needs work. Could benefit from getting a bigger frame and relies a little bit too heavily on his athleticism on defense. There is a world where I look back on this class and Caleb Wilson is the best player here. Like, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but I could also see a world where he just struggles to be consistently effective at the NBA level. And that's why I slid him a little bit further down than, like the 4 spot where he generally is. Cause I just think some of these other guys I have ahead of him, I see them, if everyone plays to what I think their average will be, I see them being a little bit better than he is. But again, being John Collins isn't bad. Like, John Collins is a good power forward. At number 6, I'm going with Darius Acuff. This is some people's like sleeper pick of the draft. He's kind of started to rise up in a lot of like mocks. For the floor, though, I'm going to say Isaiah Cannon. For the ceiling, Damian Lillard. And realistically, Keontae George, which still feels a little high now that Keontae George is like going crazy this past season. But yeah, he's a tough player to comp for because I don't think there's really a middle ground. I think he is a boom or bust type of prospect. Scores very well at all levels, and he's a good finisher near the basket. He's great at self-creation, works well in the pick and roll, shoots well at the dribble, and shoots well from deep while also being a good playmaker. Doesn't make many mistakes. He has great vision, and he could be a real problem and just has that potential to be one of these types of point guards that we look at as like he is the guy on a great team. In college, though, he did force some shots, and that could have been due to, his situation. He also could have some issues finishing over NBA bigs, but the real thing that gets talked about is the defense. He just doesn't have the body, and nothing leads me to believe that he will ever be a good defender in the NBA. You would want him to at least be average, but I just don't know if I even see him getting there. And if his shot isn't falling, he's going to be getting attacked, and he's not going to be providing you value on that other side. So his offensive production will have to make up for his lack of defense. And that's why I kind of dropped him a little bit lower, because again, if that offense doesn't come around, he could be out the league like pretty quick. And I just don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. But if he can put that offense together, he's going to be nasty and he's going to be a really fun player to watch. Now for 5, which is kind of funny because he's a pretty similar player to Acuff, but showed less consistency in college, funnily enough, I'm going to go with Michael Brown Jr. And for floor, I'm going to say current day Jordan Poole. For ceiling, Trae Young's with shades of LaMelo Ball due to his size, and realistically probably about like CJ McCollum. He has all the tools to be an elite level NBA guard, but the question is how well he will put it all together. He has great shot creation ability for himself and others, very smooth handles, and knows how to shift the defense, scores at every level with relative ease, and can show some explosion as well with the ability to finish above the rim. And he's comfortable shooting off the dribble and from the catch, and projects to be a tough shot maker and taker from deep range. Has high playmaking upside, showing his ability to manipulate the defense and make advanced reads, and excels in the pick and roll, scoring and playmaking out of there. He does try on the defensive end and uses his length and size, to get in passing lanes and get some steals, but he definitely doesn't project to be a good defender. His efficiency is a question mark for his general game, and his consistency will need to improve on his shot making. And a lot of his upsides on his game are relying on him reaching his max potential. There is a world where his percentages never really improve and he is considered an inefficient shot chucker. And in general, I think his overall decision making will need to improve. And I would also like to see him get a little bit more strength, and that will probably help him on the defensive side a bit. And he also just doesn't guard very well in open space. There's also some health concerns that I need to mention. He had some back injuries in college that could also hinder him. I think if you put him next to a good point guard, he'll be a good shooting guard and good just general score. And over time, we could see that offensive playmaking and ball handling improve, and he could maybe one day convert into a true point guard. All right, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. At number 4, I'm going to go Keaton Wagler. For floor, I'm going to say Ty Jerome, ceiling James Harden, and realistic Austin Reeves. He's a secondary ball handler that could develop into a primary ball handler, plays with control and takes good shots within the flow of the offense, makes great reads out of the pick and roll, and in general is a really good playmaker that could continue to improve. It's a crafty player who adapts to the defense well and is a good shot creator and shooter in general. Plays very smart on the offensive side, and that IQ could eventually translate to the defensive side. Now, he's not very explosive or athletic, which means he would have to work harder than some other players to create space. It also hurts him on defense, as he could have trouble with quicker guards blowing by him. And in college, he also had issues navigating screens, which, I mean, as a guard in the NBA, you're going to have to be fighting through screens all day. And it could take a few years for him to get there, but I do think he could be the best guard in this draft once it's all said and done. And I think at worst, he will be a rotational guy due to his scoring ability and IQ. And that's why I comped him with someone like Ty Jerome, who's just consistently going to be around and able to be effective and help teams out. But I do think if you put him on the right situation, he will be a very effective guard as just a shooter and secondary ball handler for sure out the gate. All right, we're here to the top 3. And now I'm ready to really make some people mad, because for number 3, I'm going to go AJ Debonsa. Now for floor, I'm going to say RJ Barrett. For ceiling, I'm going to say Paul George. And realistically, I'm going to say Brandon Ingram with shades of DeMar. I'd say he's one of the safest players in the draft. And at worst, he feels like a starting caliber player that can be a good connecting piece as a big wing that can score at 3 levels with some defensive upside. He's great physicals and moves well for his size, and his jump shot looks very smooth, and he gets to his spots at a very high rate. And definitely has franchise player potential. I don't want to get that twisted. My biggest fear is that he just isn't quick enough to get past NBA level talent at a great rate. And he just looks kind of sloppy at times, and his burst may not stack up against NBA wings. I project him to fall somewhere in the middle, maybe not hitting his full defensive potential, but becoming a consistent 20+ point per game scorer on decent efficiency. And the reason he's at 3 is because I think just those guys ahead of him, I project to hit their ceiling a lot more. And I like the idea of what they could become more than what I see currently from AJ Debonsa, who I don't project to hit maybe as high as the ceiling as some of those other guys. That's just me though. But again, he does feel like the safest pick in the draft. Number 2, I'm going to go with Cam Boozer. I'm going to say his floor is Bobby Portis with IQ, which is a hilarious thing to think about. But ceiling of Kevin Love and realistically Al Horford. And yeah, the Al Horford comps are just always going to be there, and it makes too much sense. I really like Boozer as a prospect. He's just the style of player that I think will stick around in the league for a long time. He has a very high Q, especially for how young he is, being only 18 at the time he's entering the draft, and the sky's really the limit. I think his game at times isn't the prettiest, but it gets the job done and he helps the team win. He has the ability to space the floor, and he will be able to run the 4 or be a small ball 5. He can score as a roller, popper, or ball handler, but can also operate as a passer near the post as well. In the right situation, I think he could be a really crucial piece on a championship team as like a second or third option. But due to his lack of athleticism, his defense does leave a lot to be desired. He's usually in the right places at the right time, but the lack of rim protection just kind of shows, and he's not a true big, and he doesn't have the lateral quickness of a true wing. His big frame helps, but he could definitely become a liability on that side if he doesn't improve as just a help defender. I also just don't ever expect him to be the first option on like a great team. I don't think he's a good enough ball handler or post scorer to run the offense through, but I do just like his IQ and how he understands the game and how he plays, and I just think he's a player that will plug and play on any team and immediately help you start winning games. And if he does hit that ceiling, I think of someone like a Kevin Love and he becomes an even better shooter, he's going to be amazing. That means at number 1, I'm rocking with Darren Peterson. For his floor, I'm going to say Benedict Mathurin. For his ceiling, I'm going to say a more athletic Devin Booker. And realistically, I'm going to say about Brandon Roy. Injuries have already impacted his athleticism and could be a sign of his future. But despite losing some explosiveness during his college season, he was still very effective at scoring on and off the ball. His jump shot improved a lot with him looking to be an elite three-point shooter. He was able to create space with the ball in his hands and got to his spots very well. He's a combo guard that has potential to run the point if his playmaking continues to develop. And he looks very engaged on defense and projects to at least be an average defender with the upside to become a good defender. And if his athleticism comes back, this will give him an even higher ceiling on both sides. The real concerns are his health, his attitude, and even his shot selection. His decision making in general would just need to improve. He was getting some bad turnovers and taking some ill-advised shots. I just generally project him to hit that ceiling of a player like a Devin Booker more so than AJ DeBonson and Cam Boozer, but I also understand the people that don't believe in it. I just, from what I've seen in terms of his shot creation ability and his jump shot, I just don't think that will ever falter. Just think in recent years, we've seen the league going more in the direction of these type of combo guard players that can just score at a very high rate. And I just see him being very successful as a scorer to begin with. And then if that defense begins to develop and he gets on a team that's really good, we could be looking at a player that's just very impactful on both sides of the ball as a guard and able to lead this team as a number 1 scoring option. But at the end of the day, I could be wrong, because guess what? I don't know ball.